Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and this is another rapid fire critique where I take 10 of hopefully your best photos and give them a critiquerson. You can submit your best 10 photos at bit.ly/FroCritiques, and that's where you submit them, or when I go on Facebook and ask you to submit them, you can do that. FroCritiques. So here we have the top 10 from Jacob Bertz. We got these 10 images. We're gonna jump right in with this image, which has no data, which I hate when I can't see the data, so I can't yell at you as much. It's fine. This is one of those shots I look at and I'm like, cool, okay. I think the parents would love something like this, but the angle, I'm not a big fan of the horn of the saddle thing because I know nothing about riding horses, is sticking up right here. Possibly a different angle. The kid's not engaging with the camera. And look, I get it, kids don't engage with cameras, but when you're shooting images, you want to wait for the engagement thing to happen. You want to bring out the personality and have them looking at you, not looking off camera. So what you could do is have whoever they're looking at stand right behind you and be like, ah, look at me, I'm a guy. Ooh, baby, look at me, ooh, you know, whatever, and then they look at you. Other than that, the exposure's fine, the processing's fine, it's okay. It looks to be cropped to me. I mean, it's hard to tell, to be honest, because I don't have the metadata to look at, but other than that, okay. This, I didn't notice this tree. I now notice this tree sticking out on the side, and there's none on this. It's just a snapshot. This is one of those things. Oh, look, an EOS 7D Mark II with a 17-55 2.8. Good little lens to have for that. I'm not a landscape nature lover photographer guy, so this doesn't really do it for me. But one thing I would say is possibly try to go vertical here and accentuate the rolling, moving of this trail. Get rid of this tree on the right. It doesn't really help you in this situation. It's blah. Okay. 17-55, shot at 28 millimeters for a portrait. You do hear people talk about not shooting portraits wide angles. Now, I'm fine with environmental portraits shot ultra wide, like 14 millimeters or wider, but 28 millimeters for a portrait of a girl sitting on a fence post isn't really good, because even at 2.8, if this was shot at 2.8, which it's not, it's shot at 3.2, you're not blowing the background out. You're not getting any separation. It looks nothing more than an iPhone shot or a cell phone shot. Yes, it looks a little better than that, but that's what I'm getting out of it. Two, her face, you know, she's just like, I mean, that's her face. So you need to, as the photographer, bring out the emotion. You need to say something. This is not capturing the moment. This right here, not capturing the moment. This is just a girl sitting there going, why the hell am I doing this? Why am I having my picture taken? And you're not doing her any good by showing your reflection of you taking the picture in the background right here. The way to correct this is, one, you gotta talk to the subject and be like, hey, I'm gonna get your photo, here we go, you ready? Whee! Not exactly like that, it's not a little kid, but you need to have a rapport. You need to be like, all right, I love what you're doing right there, that looks okay, except for the hands that are like covering just like between her legs. It's like, instead of that, why don't you put your hands up over here on top of your leg? One hand there, just let the other one lay, or do this, or do that. Like, just, you gotta get them to move and function, and then you can bring the image out of the person. You can bring the emotion, because this right here certainly doesn't have any emotion. Compositionally, it's fine. If I was to shoot it, I would do a 7200, longer lens, a 105 1.4. If you don't have those type of lenses, you could have an 85 1.8. You could, I wouldn't say do it with a 50, but on a crop sensor camera, a 50 1.8 Canon would do better than shooting this at 28 millimeters or whatever it was shot at, which then you multiply it a little bit on the 7D Mark II. So that's my feelings on that image. See, doesn't that look much better? Doesn't this just look much better? She's all like smiling opposed to this. Smiling just looks better in this case. This one is done at 55 millimeters, so zoomed all the way out, so it's about 80 millimeters on this camera. f3.2, not sure why we're not wide open at 2.8, 1/60th of a second at 640 ISO. I'm not going to sit there and tell you you can drop that. Of course you can drop that, but I have no problem at 640. The only thing is I want some more kick light in her face. Even if you're not using a flash, you do have the light behind her on the hair light, which I'd rather be in the face. I wonder what happens if you turn that around. Or if you're still going here, go into Lightroom and just brighten up these eyes ever so slightly because they're missing that. They're missing that kick, that little punch in the eye. But this is much better than the image before just because the girl is smiling. I don't smile. You look back at all my photos as a kid, I don't smile. All right. Again, not too keen on the landscapes, but the distractions of these branches on the right-hand side really take my focus away from, well, there's not much going on. I don't know what else to tell you. It's just like, let's shoot into the lens flare, which I hate lens flare. That's a thing that a lot of people like to do today is get that lens flare, and I'm all about that lens flare. So that's my take on it. I don't like lens flare. I don't like playing with it. I don't like it. I don't want imperfections in my lenses coming out. And while we're at it, I don't want to see crystals. I don't want to see people holding up crystals while they're going to get the photos because they're putting a $99, a $50, a $12 piece of crap crystal in front of a really good piece of glass. Can we put an end to crystals for photos? I just don't like this photo. Oh boy. We all know where I stand for maternity photos. I don't know what to add to maternity photos. I honestly don't. I'm sure it's beautiful and that the family will love to say that my baby was in here and there's a guy that I hope's the father holding her hands and touching the baby. I don't get it. Could you female followers, all 4% of you, please leave some comments down below, or men, I shouldn't discriminate. If you're a man and you think that you like maternity photos, help me understand the importance of it, because I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it one bit. Is this a good photo? It's all right. The color, the color's not very good on it. There's not a lot of light in the face. It's more exposed for the background, more so than them. It's a little, it's just some color tweaking could be better. But compositionally, step back. Don't curse again. I didn't curse. I held myself. Step back. Zoom in. You know, separate the subject from the background. I just think it's just a snapshot where you got these two people and the composition's right on the way that you got it, but I just don't see the emotion in their face. She's like looking up at him and he's like, yeah, that's right. I put this there in you and you put this, you're gonna give me a baby and stuff. And that's what she's saying. That's what she's saying. I can read her mind. I can't read her mind, but I just don't see the emotion. Like maybe put your foreheads together. Maybe that would do something. Just smile. Because they just look uneasy, which is saying that the photographer isn't doing a good enough job directing. And we've seen that image after image after image, that it seems like we're not pulling out the emotions in the subjects. And you have to do that. You as the photographer have to bring out the emotions. You need to sit here and say to them, even though I don't like maternity photos, think about the joy that this baby will bring to your life. I mean, I'm full of shit, but I would say it because think about the joy that this baby's going to bring to your life. Oh, you know, walking them down the aisle and no, don't go that far. But the joy, like imagine holding the baby for the first time. Like think about it. Put some pictures into their mind so that you can capture some emotion in the image, because this didn't capture it. And this didn't capture it either. Jacob Burtz. See, I also don't have anything else to go by. I don't know if Jacob is a new photographer or an old photographer, because I don't want to yell at a kid. Like if Jacob is like a 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old kid, I don't want to yell at you and scare you away. I don't want to scare anybody away from being a photographer. Understand that these critiques are not about scaring you away from being a photographer. It's about giving you the truth. Let me take that back. Don't edit that out, Dan, when I say take that back. Well, let me take that back because there's no truth per se in what I'm saying. It's not saying that what I say is the gospel, because it's not. It's personal preference. My goal with the critique is to hopefully point things out that pop up in your brain when you're shooting that you're like, oh yeah, Jared talked about getting closer and filling the frame because it's a wide angle shot, and if I don't, it's not going to look as good. Or don't cut off the toe like you did on this picture right here. You cut the toe off of those all-stars. There's no need to cut the toe off. You have time. This could have been a horizontal. Now, let's point out some things I do like. This is done with a 70-200 f4. It's an f4. It's not a 2.8, but that's okay. This is a much better piece of glass than a 70-300. I've talked about this in other critiques where the sooner you can get to better glass, save up, get better glass, buy used, buy third party. As soon as you can get to one of those 2.8s, or in this case, the 70-200 f4 is a solid Canon lens. As soon as you can graduate to those, you're going to see an exponential growth in the quality of the images that you're capturing. Even if you don't know what you're doing up front, you're still going to end up with better results because the camera is certainly going to help you do that. So I love the lighting on this. I like the colors, I like the tones. It's a little yellow for my liking, but that could be the difference between our two monitors. Mine is color calibrated, by the way. This was taken at f4, 1/160th at 93 millimeters. So what I would say here is these cars are going to be distracting. You're at 93 millimeters. Back up. If you have room, zoom out to 200. Don't cut off the foot. Shoot horizontal if you need to for some of them. But back up so you can blow the background out even more, even though you have an f4. You can do it. So, and just there's no emotion in her face. She's just like sitting there like, take my picture. Take my picture, Jacob. This was with a flash. So it's okay. I mean, it's not the greatest lighting, and it's off camera. You can see it over to the side. It's creating this harsh shadow, which could work in some cases. Maybe a black and white would be better. But again, there is the lack of emotion. There's a lack of something in the face. If you want her to be pissed off and look like she's pissed off, then tell her, be pissed off. Think of somebody that really upsets you. You have to bring emotion out of the subject, and that's what I'm getting out of this more than anything, is you are not bringing the emotion. You're not getting the emotion from these people. You're not capturing it because you're not asking for it. You have to ask for it, and stop pointing your finger. I'm sorry, I'm pointing my finger at you. Let me keep going. Well, the only saving grace here is that the train tracks are old and they're not being used, so that's good, because I hate when people are on train tracks. 1755 f8, 30 seconds exposure at 3200 ISO with a 2.8 lens. So here's what you're doing wrong with the night photography. There's no reason to be at f8. Okay, not going to say there's no reason. The one reason is you're trying to get this, but at 3200, whatever camera is not holding up at all, and this is just super grainy, super noisy. If I was to do this and I was to focus on the sky, go infinity, shoot at 2.8, drop that ISO a bunch. Even at this case, you can drop it, go to f4, whatever, and then you're dropping this to 1600. It's one stop. Hope you get that math. We want to get the same exact exposure that we have here. Whether it's good or bad is irrelevant. In this case, we want to drop f8 to f4. So we're letting more light in that case. We're going to stay at 30 seconds. We're not changing the shutter speed. Now, because we dropped our aperture by a stop, from 8 to 4, the image would end up being way too bright, still at 3200 because we're letting more light in. So the simplest thing we need to change to compensate to give us the same exact exposure is, instead of being at ISO 3200, which way would we go if we wanted the same exposure to compensate for more light coming in? Well, we don't want to raise it because that would make it more sensitive to light. So we cut it in half, one stop, we have the exact same exposure. And that is the secret to better pictures. Seriously, it's a secret to the exposure. It's just one stop at a time, one stop at a time. 800 ISO 30 f3.2, 30 seconds. It's okay. Need to work on the focus, because you need to work on the focus here. Focus for this is not the easiest thing. I've done a night photography tutorial before. You want to go to infinity and slightly pulled back, not beyond, slightly pulled back. Focus in on the sky. Oh, and turn off noise reduction in the camera. You don't want noise reduction to soften the image out, and definitely shoot raw for something like this. But I like what's going on. You're getting some foreground elements which add some interest, maybe not the best interest in the world in this case, but it still adds some interest. So, Jacob, let's go back to the album. Study this image more than anything else. This is what you want to study. This is a beautiful piece of emotion. I still want to see a better exposure, and I want to see better editing on this, but this is emotion. She's smiling. Just smile. She just looks better. The other ones, they don't have it. Moral of the story, bring the emotion out of the people. If you're using that 70-200 to do portraits, shoot out at 150 or 200 further, because then on your crop sensor camera, it's acting as a 300+ millimeter in equivalent. It's going to blow out that background even more. It's going to separate the subjects. Back away. Don't cut things off. Get emotion. That's about it. I didn't put a plug in here, so why don't you go pick up my presets? Go to, that Steven and I created 14 custom Lightroom presets from FroKnowsPhoto.com/presets. They're 40% off. Go pick them up right now. See if you like them. People are loving them. They do really work really well. I use my own now. It's really good. So you want to submit yours? Not your presets, but your critiquing stuff? bit.ly/FroCritiques. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. And that's it. Jared, Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.